All right, guys. All right, we're going to show you quickly how to do some gun effects. This comes from a previous tutorial showing how to do squibs. I'm going to show how to do kind of the digital effects on those squibs here. You got this quick shot here, gun shoots, and boom. The edit's not fast enough right now. I've got a little extra time here in Premiere. The gun shoots, boom, and the guy gets shot, who's actually just me getting shot doing all this camera crap by myself. Because I don't have any friends. Nobody wants to be my friend. So here we go. Careful my mouse, but okay. Right, here we go. So first of all, in Premiere, this is a tutorial with Premiere and After Effects. I'm going to send these clips over. What I like to do in Premiere when I send clips over, so I kind of preserve the original clips, is I like to duplicate them on top of each other here. I grab this footage, drag or hold down Option, and drag and drop or drag up while I'm holding down Option. It'll duplicate these clips, put them on top of each other. I'm going to send these two to After Effects and leave these two alone in case I need the original footage for some reason. I get used to doing that with After Effects. All right, so now I'm going to right-click on this clip here. First, I'm going to do these one at a time. I'm going to put them in one project, but do them one at a time. Have two different compositions for each clip. I like to do that. Some people would send these both over into one composition. I like them in two separate compositions, depending on what you like in After Effects. Right-click. Replace with After Effects composition. Okay, then it will open up After Effects for you and bring open this window asking where you want to save the project. I'm just going to find a location here. I'm going to be putting it in my After Effects folder here, and I'm going to call this Gunshot Effect and save it as a project. All right, within After Effects, it brings in here a composition, and this composition right here. And the footage that it's using. So it's got that footage, and it's got this raw clip here, and it's got the composition with the edited in and out point that I created in Premiere. Okay, I've got some other elements here. You can create your own elements. You can create your own Photoshop elements if you wish. I'm using the Video Copilot items here to finish this off. I've got some muzzle flashes which you can create in Photoshop if you wish. These are basically still frames of a muzzle flash, but this is going to make it much easier, already pre-created. If you haven't purchased these yet, buy them online at videocopilot.net. You can buy the Action Essentials 2-pack, which has some nice 2K and 1080 clips to be using that are already pre-composited for you, which is nice. I'm going to grab one of these clips here. I've gone through these already, and the one that I like is, oops, that's not the one I like. I'm going to bring in this entire folder. Drag and drop these in. I'm going to put these into a new folder here. Drag and drop highlighted, all these highlighted. I'm going to drag and drop it to the folder icon and create a folder and call this muzzle. So I've got my muzzle flashes there. I can look at each one of these here until I find the one that I like. I know this is more like a machine gun one, but since it looks big and bad, I'm going to use it. I'm going to drag that and drop it in on top of this layer here. And now at the very beginning here, you'll notice I have this muzzle flash. I'm going to move this in to where the gun shoots. Grab this, move it over more to where that gun goes off. And actually, there's a shortcut for this as well if you want the endpoint to move to that point, to the point where the gun shoots. Right there was where the gun shoots. And I want it right there, right there. And you use page up and page down, by the way, to go through frame by frame. I'm going to page down to this point right there. And now if you hold down Option and your left bracket key, oops, that doesn't endpoint. It just hit actually your left bracket key. It'll move your endpoint there. Otherwise, it will reset a new endpoint on that clip. But just the bracket key itself will move your endpoint to this position on your to the playhead position on your timeline. All right, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to move it over the top of my gun here. I'm going to grab the corner of this and scale it down to the size that I want. And there's also some other things you can do to this to make it look a little bit more realistic. You can go down and toggle your modes and switches and look at your modes down here. If you look at your modes, you can try different modes and see what you get. Screen overlay seems to be pretty typical. Sort of overlay what just kind of brings out the brights of this to make it look a little bit more like a flash instead of a fire. But right there, the gun shoots. And actually, I'm going to move it to that frame right there. That seems to work a little bit better. But then I have to reposition this over the gun. And boom. There we go. So we've got that flare that turns on and off. This is just like a one or two frame flare here. Boom. And it looks like it shoots. If you want to do a couple more things here to make this look more realistic, it's going to cut away from this shot pretty quick. But if you want to make that look a little bit more realistic, you also add some smoke. I have some smoke wisps here, which is also from the Action Essentials pack. It's one of these first two that I want to use. Let me bring those in. I'm going to drag those in here. And let's take a look at these. Actually, that one right there is a pretty good wisp, for that first one right there. But like I said, this is going to cut away so quick you might not even need the smoke. I'm going to grab and drag that down inside. I'm going to change my smoke wisp to right immediately after this fires. So I'm going to hit my left bracket key, which will set the endpoint right there. And notice the wisp is happening down here, so all I have to do is grab that wisp, make sure I got my layer selected, drag it up above the gun. Get a little closer to the gun there so it looks like it's coming out of the barrel. See, and that's going to happen so quick I probably don't even need the smoke wisp there. And you can also do a screen composite on that and makes it look a little bit better. And I'm going to move that back a couple frames, see if it, boom. And there's a little bit of smoke coming out now, so boom. There we go. Okay. Couple more things that we could do here is we notice that I've got a blowback option, or a blowback on this gun here. When it shoots, the gun blows back. This is an airsoft gun with no bullets in it when it shoots. It has compressed air in it that makes the gun blow back and makes it look like the gun's actually firing. Boom. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to grab, if you've got these shells from the Action Essential pack, I've got these shells that are flying here. I'm going to grab a couple of the 45 caliber ones here and drag those in. More of a pistol than a large gun, like a large machine gun or automatic or semi-automatic rifle. I'm going to drag that and drop it down inside here. And what you've got here is you've got this bullet that is spinning here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that endpoint of the bullet. I'm going to put it position right there by hitting bracket and bring it over. So when the gun fires, the bullet comes flying out. Now you have to resize this bullet here to make it look like it's its actual size. I'm going to size that down there. Some other things that we'll need to do is brighten this up here as well because it looks too dark for this. So I'm going to go to my effects and go brighten. Brightness and contrast, and add that to my bullet there, and I'm going to brighten that up a little bit. Change the contrast, make it a little less contrasty because I'm going to do the color correction later. So you can turn down the contrast here as well, brighten it up a bit more. There we go. And make it look more like it's fitting the scene there. And try to make it about the right size. And we're going to animate this as it shoots out of the gun here. We're going to create an animation path. The way you do that is go down to position. We're going to turn on the keyframe for position. Click right there. Adds a beginning keyframe, and we're going to create a path. I'm just going to have this kind of fly out of the shot here, and we're going to have it go out of the shot like that. So let's take a look at that there. So right now what we've got is this bullet, boom, flying off. You could actually make it more of a curve if you want to. This is going to fly off so fast it's just going to kind of go out of the screen there. But what I want that to do is fly out a little bit faster. Oh, let's see. Boom. Yeah, it needs to fly out a little bit faster. So I can grab that time and drag it a little closer together, and it's going to happen faster. Boom. It's going to be really subtle, but just kind of all these subtleties kind of will come together and make it look a little bit more realistic. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, now something that happens here is you'll notice, since this is held still spinning in front of the camera that they shot it on, it looks very unnatural. There's no motion blur like you're seeing here on the gun, like you see in real life. So what I'm going to do is add some motion blur. We're going to go down to toggle switches and modes, and and we're going to go down and turn on our motion blur. Right here, this is going to enable motion blur for all the layers that you turn on. So I'm going to click on that, turn on motion blur, and you notice still nothing has happened. I believe it does this for about 1/48th of a shutter speed, which is a pretty standard shutter speed on a camera on motion photography. And right here we're going to turn on motion blur for that layer, just for this layer. So right now it's turned on overall, but now whatever layers are activated, it will activate it if this is turned on here. So I'm going to hit the motion blur, and you'll notice the bullet goes blurry as it's flying through air. So now we shoot, boom, there's a bullet flying out, and it looks like something's flying out of the gun there. There we go. Let's play through that. Boom. Boom. And there we go. Now the bullet flies out. Actually, I'm going to make that go a little bit to the side instead. Let me zoom out here. I'm holding down Option and scrolling down on my mouse to get it to animate there, or to get it to zoom out. And I'm going to hit Shift ? To zoom it back into place. Boom. And that goes a little too fast now because it's got a little more distance to cover. Let's see what that looks like. And actually, that's going to look better if it goes down and does a little bit. Oops. Does a little bit of a curve here. So we're going to move that up and make it do a little bit of a curve and kind of change the path so it does a little bit of a curve so it looks like it's kind of flying. Boom. There we go. Not too bad. Boom. And it looks like the shell's pumping out and going out to the side there. So there we go for the gunshot. Now let's go to the squib part and show a little bit of effects on the squib part. And actually one thing you could do on the gun here, if you wanted to do one final effect here to make it look like, sometimes if a gun shoots, it'll brighten up the area, the flare will brighten up the area a little bit. You can brighten up this entire area here. What I'm going to do is select all these layers. Right click, I'm going to pre-compose them. What this does is puts them all into one composition, puts all those layers into a single composition. They haven't disappeared, but you'll notice they've all been compressed down into this this layer here. If I double click on that, it'll open it up, that pre-comp, and show all the layers that I was working with before on its own composition. It's just a composition within a composition, an inception sort of thing. That was a stupid joke. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate my pre-comp. Apple D or Control D on a PC to duplicate it. So I've got the layer on top of a layer. Now I'm going to find the point where this shoots. Right here is where I want the flare to begin. I'm going to turn off my top pre-comp. I'm going to hit Option, left bracket, and place an endpoint for this to turn on. Right here beforehand, that top layer is completely turned off. If I turn off the bottom layer completely, you'll notice this top layer doesn't turn on until that keyframe now, or until that endpoint right there. So I'm going to turn it on right there. I'm going to add, let me turn off the bottom layer so you kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm going to grab my pen tool and create a quick mask here. I'm going to be pretty rudimentary, not going to really get nitty gritty here, but I'm going to kind of make a little area here for things to brighten up. This is where it's going to brighten up here. I'm going to add my brightness and contrast. So I've cut out that circle. Now if you look below it, I've got the layer below it. So basically what I've got is a cutout layer on top of this layer right here. So I've got this layer on top of the full layer behind. So I'm going to turn that off, the bottom layer, grab the brightness and contrast, drop on that, and I'm going to brighten this up a bit right there. And there we go. So basically, you'll notice this outside layer is brighter than the inside layer. Now I'm going to feather that mask on top. Arrow down, go to Masks, go to Mask here, and I'm going to feather this mask just to soften it up a little bit and kind of blend it in. So now you notice when the gunshot goes off, boom, it brightens up the body area here a little bit. But I'm going to turn down the opacity over time here. So I'm going to go down to Transform, go to Opacity, put a keyframe on the beginning part there, and go down about 3 frames and turn my opacity to 0. So basically what this does, let me show you, turn off the bottom layer. So what's happening here is you got this top layer composited where it suddenly turns on, bright, and then fades off. So now what you've got as we play through this, let me turn on the bottom layer again, is you've got, boom, when this gun shoots, it brightens up the body a little bit. Looks like a little bit of a gun flare brightening up the body. I didn't get really accurate on the body there, but you get the point. Boom. And a little bit of smoke. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go to my project, and I'm going to rename my final composition, my gunshot composition here. I'm going to name this Final Gunshot. That's my composition. It's called Final Gunshot. I'm going to save that, go back to Premiere, and you'll notice it has replaced that with a composition there, that clip with the composition. So now it's been, this top layer is replaced with that After Effects composition of the gun shooting. All right, now I'm going to do this gun effect here. I'm going to right-click the Squib effect. Then I'll add a little bit of an effect to this because I just want to, what I want to do on this one to get rid of the, I want to get rid of this cut shirt here. The shirt's been cut so it easily blows up and the blood comes spurting out. So I'm going to right-click on this one, go to Replace with After Effects Composition. It brings it into After Effects. The same project is open. If you have a project open in After Effects and you send over another clip, it'll add that clip in its own composition. And this one is called Gunshot Tutorial Link Comp 2. I'm going to change that one to Bloodburst. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to show, or I want to get rid of this. It's going to, once again, it's going to be so quick nobody would really notice this, but just in case you want to get rid of it, I'm going to show a way to do that. I'm going to go back to Premiere, and I'm going to get a still frame here of just the shirt sitting there. I'm going to export out a JPEG here. I'm going to export a frame right there on that frame where nothing's happening. I'm going to browse, go to my After Effects, and I'm going to save this in my After Effects. I'm just going to call it Blood Still and save it as a JPEG there. And okay, going to go to After Effects and import that. Go to my After Effects folder. There it is right there. Import that JPEG there. What we're going to do here is we're basically going to get a portion of the shirt to kind of replace this area right there. So I'm going to grab my blood still. I'm going to drag it in here. And I'm going to grab maybe a little portion of this shirt right here and move it up. So I've got the blood still. This is just a still JPEG. Notice no motion to it on top of the movie here. So I'm going to cut out a little portion here. Going to zoom up by holding down Alt or Option and scroll up on your mouse. And it will zoom up to where your mouse is. I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to select, I'm going to click and drag to grab a little bit of Bezier here. And just grab this portion of the shirt here. Hopefully that'll be enough to cover it. And now that has cut that out. When you rejoin it, notice this has cut this portion of the shirt out. I'm going to drag it up and drop it over this portion of the shirt. I'm going to stretch, I'm going to deselect the the mask here by just clicking in here, and as deselected it, now I'm going to select the object here, and you'll notice it's added these transform options around these things here. There's the mask on the inside, and here's the actual shape right here. You can grab that. I'm going to stretch it out and make it a little bit longer. Oops. Let me grab my... I'm going to stretch that out, make it a little bit longer, drag it up, and drop it right there on the shirt. I need to rotate that a little bit. I'm going to grab my rotate key or tool and rotate that just a little bit until it kind of lines up a little bit better. This is rotating on an axis from a full JPEG instead. There's no axis in here, but that works right there. Got it lined up. Got it pretty well matched. Well, actually, let me get it for the first frame, and we'll match this right there. Covers it. I'm going to soften the mask a little bit as well. I'm going to go down to Masks and feather that mask just a teeny bit. There we go. And there you go. Now it's blending in pretty good, but the only issue is the shirt moves. So we want this to move with the shirt. I'm going to take off a little bit of that feather. That's a little too much feather. There we go. 6 pixels, good enough. But we want this to kind of move with the shirt. So what I'm going to do to get this to move with the shirt is motion track it. All right, so let me save. Alright, so we're going to go to motion tracking. I'm going to pull this down up here and tell it to go to motion tracking view. I'm going to select the clip below it because we're going to motion track to the clip below it, turn off the JPEG, and we're going to motion track to the movement of this shirt here. I'm going to do track motion, click on that, shift or a shift question mark to get that to zoom out. Option scroll into this, and we're going to put it to maybe that part of the shirt right there. And I'm going to add a null layer here. If you haven't done motion tracking before, you got to do a new null layer, null object, sorry, because we're going to apply that information to the null track. I'm going to select my movie and track that pixel right there on the shirt. We're going to do analyze forward. Click on that, and that's going to be enough right there. Then it kind of goes nuts, but that's going to be enough right there to track at the beginning until that shoots. So now I'm going to edit my target here. Click Edit Target, and we're going to apply that to the null layer. Hit OK, and then hit Apply after you've done the tracking to X and Y dimensions. And now, as we play through it, the null layer will track to the movement of the shirt. Hit H for hand, move this down. Here's my null layer right here, null object. And as we do page down, you'll notice this moves, this null object, this faint null object moves with the shirt. So now what I'm going to do is parent the blood still, turn that back on. We're going to parent that, grab the parent, and attach it to the null. So now that moves with the shirt. You notice my JPEG now moves with the shirt. I just have to move it a little bit because it's kind of out of line there. So let's line it up right about there. And now that I've parented it to the null, it moves with the shirt. There we go, and we've covered up that shirt there. But now we want it to go away once the blood comes out. So right about there, I want it to stop. So what I'm going to do is go to the blood layer and transform, and we're going to turn on the opacity, and we're going to move down a couple frames and turn it to 0 so it turns off within a couple frames there. Let's see how that looks. Boom. And that looks pretty good. So basically that JPEG just turns off over a couple frames, and the blood bursts out, and it looks like the shirt is getting blown up, and you can no longer see that cut in the shirt from beforehand. This works with like bullet holes in the head as well. If you've got a bullet hole in a head, there we go. Now you cannot see the shirt, the hole that was cut in the shirt. So we play through it, boom, and the blood squirts out. And we are basically done with that. So now we can go back to Premiere. I saved it, and this is updated in Premiere. And now if we want, we can change the edit timing on this. If we want to change the timing on this, we can edit down the timing on this gunshot. Boom, right there. I'm going to cut right there. So let's cut on all layers. Apple K to do is a shortcut for cutting through all layers. Delete that. Move down, and we want the bullet to happen. Like I said, this is going to be so quick that you wouldn't even notice that shirt in the first place. But sometimes if you don't want to, if you just want somebody standing there and getting shot and you don't know who shot them, like from a sniper rifle, you'll see the shirt for a couple seconds before that person gets shot. So as we play through, boom, there's the shot. Play through it again, boom. And we don't have sound effects on this yet, but I'm going to show that. I'm going to put that clip together and show this final clip with the sound effects and everything on it, color corrected and all that crap. So yeah, there you go. Okay, a couple things I want to add to this is you can use this kind of interchangeably with other shots. I've got, like for example, one shot that I got here from the movie Ground Zero. Show where somebody gets shot in the head. We actually just had a makeup spot already on their head of a bullet hole, but when I get shot, you'll notice the bullet hole is not there. We just took some skin digitally and moved it over the hole and had it disappear over a couple frames, much the same way that we did with the shirt, and did motion tracking with that skin. Took a JPEG off the skin and just moved it over the dot and feathered it, and then just when the gun shoots, it just disappears over a couple frames, revealing the makeup gun hole that's already there, and then coordinated that with the squib blowing out the back of the head. So here's that clip, watch that, and then and that's really it. So it can be used interchangeably for a whole bunch of different stuff. Digital effects mixed with practical really makes an effective shot. So there you go.